Talk 1600. You're catching the drift. Conservative talk, intelligent conversations on local, state, and national issues with Gary Wellings, chief editor of the Current newspaper and Current Online. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600. And now, your host, Gary Wellings.
And good Saturday afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to Catch Our Drift. Joining me in the studio, the deplorable Ipsy Ed Bonderenka.
Yes, deplorable, yes.
Yeah,
that music gives you a Pavlovian response. You know you're going to
you're going to get a good show.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, welcome to the show. And we got a special guest in with us today, local filmmaker, Nick Stumphauzer. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
Good.
I threw you off. You didn't finish the show intro. I didn't get to do my news.
We haven't.
Okay.
No.
Sorry.
So what we do every Saturday on The Drift is we go over the news that I put on thedailydrift.com, and if you're not going there, you should. It's
the news you need to know.
It's just like that, dude. I'm a professional. You
Yes.
don't have to never worry when you're in here with Gary.
Okay.
It's smooth sailing. Even when I screw up, it's smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Right? Well,
Good
sometimes.
recovery. Nobody would know.
Yeah, so welcome to the show, and if you want to call into the show, not the first half, second half of the show you can call in, but you can also email me, Gary at thedailydrift.com. Send me your comments, and I can read them on air if you want, or whatever you need to do. So, well, Nick, we're going to give you, you're going to stay with us, I hope, the whole hour.
Yes, sir.
We'll talk politics after.
Wonderful.
I'm excited because you're young. Want
Yeah.
to tell people your age? Are you ashamed of your
No,
age?
that's fine. I turned 20 last month.
Wow. Well, you look. You walked in the door, and I went, "Oh, you look younger than you look on your website and stuff."
What an overachiever.
He is
I'm
an
ashamed.
overachiever.
I'm ashamed.
I'm looking at the Film Critic Award stuff, and I'm like, this dude must be it's my age, 40s, 50s.
He looks
maybe?
young for 40, doesn't he?
That's what I was thinking. So I was like, oh, you must be Nick's son.
It's coconut oil on the face. makes you look
Fractured
younger.
coconut
that's what
oil,
it is.
little doTERRA action. Yes, exactly. So what's kind of brought you to us is your new movie that's coming out, and it's the movie that you're premiering what day?
October 27th at 1 p.m. It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday, and our own Theron is going to host it for us.
Yeah.
Right?
So Theron's going to be hosting the evening, and he's actually in the movie.
Yeah, I saw the trailer.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what got me excited. So Ed had kind of worked this out, and I didn't know a whole lot about what was going on. And I saw the trailer, and the trailer is like super, like you'd see at the theater, right? I'm
Thank
thinking,
you. Yeah.
wow.
Oh, you mean like professional?
Was this professional? And this morning I watched one of your short films here that's on your website and went, oh, that's really cool. That's awesome. So you're not just local Billy Bob throwing film. These are real films.
Yeah, well, this is my first feature length.
Yeah.
So I did a short film that was 9 minutes and then 16, and then I kind of just plugged my nose and dove right in and went for a feature while I was still at film school.
Okay.
So
did you do those in 8mm or 16mm?
Yes. No. No. Both were shot all three films were shot digitally. I am a fan of celluloid. Unfortunately, for someone in my position in the career, it's just cost prohibitive.
Oh, heck
right now.
yeah.
Is it that much better, celluloid?
I love celluloid.
Really?
It's beautiful. Yeah,
Well,
it's
you
beautiful.
can play tricks with it, but it's like vinyl versus CD.
That's exactly what it
is.
is. You've got that one guy in the audience who
If you
pushes
like
up his
tape
glasses.
this,
and-
go for the
yeah.
So the name of this film, like, kind of, when I first heard it, I was like, ooh, that's pretty risque, I guess.
Yeah,
is what
well,
I'm looking for.
I had told Nick, I'm not sure I want to put that in the newspaper, with that
right,
title. Yeah, because I get enough
But
calls
that-
as it is.
Well, you know what? What the disgusting part is, how PC have we become?
Yeah.
That we're afraid to talk
Yeah.
about a film, and this is a good film because it's letting people know what happened. And I'll say, How to Kill 14 People Without Saying a Word
Is
the name of the film.
Sounds
and it's a
pretty-
documentary
Yes,
of
it is.
the San Bernardino shooting, right?
That's where it starts, yeah. And I love watching people's faces because it's a long title. So as I'm in the first half of it, their eyes widen, and then I finish the title, and their blood pressure goes back down.
Sounds like a
Right.
Quentin Tarantino film, you know?
Yes, How to Kill 14 People Without Saying a Word, and it immediately got my attention. And the trailer is awesome. It
Thank
really
you.
is. So,
Thank you so much.
if I'd had more time this morning, I think I would have clicked the button and bought it and watched it on the spot. But
Wonderful.
I didn't have enough time, unfortunately, today. Knowing that you're coming on, I'll do it this afternoon or tomorrow. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it.
All right. So, can you tell me? I know you're young and don't have all the finances of Hollywood.
Yeah.
What was your budget?
Budget was $4,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can put together a feature-length documentary film for $4,000.
Well, let me give you some reference on that. One of, I think Fahrenheit 9/11, not 11/9, not Michael Moore's new film that also tanked, but the original one that made $326 million. That was funded by the Weinstein brothers, and he had something like $9 million for his opening. And something I think a lot of people don't understand is every time you see a news clip go across the screen, they paid about $3,000 for every 30 seconds of that news clip. So I had to physically hop on a plane and travel to these places and actually get down on the ground, get dirty, and film the riots and the protests and the interviews in person because I could not afford to just go on CNN and pay their licensing fees. So this is most of this footage is stuff that I actually filmed myself.
And you own it then? Obviously.
Yeah, I own the footage. This is Spirit Airlines and Chipotle fueled documentary. So
that's cool. It's authentic.
Yeah.
I like Chipotle because, I was at work the other day and someone catered in, right? And there was the Chipotle left over in the kitchen cafeteria, and Gary's like, it's not in my budget for calories today, but Chipotle
isn't that living dangerously eating Chipotle, or is that okay now?
It's okay.
Okay.
Don't ruin my day.
Sorry. Well, Nick has survived, so
Nick survived.
I made a movie off of it.
Yeah,
it's pretty safe to me. Chipotle stands for free speech, whether or not they know it.
Awesome.
So how'd you get into? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
How'd you get into filmmaking?
Well, ironically enough, I've also been a magician for 11 years, and to me,
Pastor Rick's going to hit you up about that.
Wonderful. So I've been doing film and magic kind of at the same time for about the last 11 years since I was around 9 or 10 years old, and I always had a passion for both, but I also always thought they were the same thing. And I had never intended on making a documentary, never in my life. I had always wanted to make narrative films, stories, the Batmans, the Footlooses, the stuff you go see on the weekends at MJR. But when I first met Milo Yiannopoulos, and I delivered a forensic speech that I gave to him, and he told me I had talent. He invited me out to California to finish his tour that he was giving with Breitbart. And when I experienced Berkeley for the first time, like the infamous February 1st night of Berkeley, where Antifa marched in and burned the entire campus down. Again, I had never considered making a documentary until that night, and I realized, I'm a filmmaker, and I'm seeing this happen, and there's a story here, and I want to tell it. And so,
how did you meet Miley?
I met Milo when I
said Miley.
I met Miley Cyrus when
way different.
No, he came to Michigan State University in 2016, and a friend of mine, I guess, had met him prior to that, and arranged a connection. And I filmed some footage of the protesters that ended up being used in a story by Breitbart. And in the process of giving Breitbart the footage, I was able to meet Milo, spent the evening with him, and delivered this speech that I gave back in high school about freedom of speech. And he said, "You have talent. That's a killer speech. Why don't you come to California and finish off the tour?"
Can you give us that speech right now?
I have a lot of it memorized if you wanted, but it's 10 minutes of Nick monologuing. So I don't know.
Another show.
We'll do that on another day. Well, I love Milo, but he seems like he's disappeared.
He has dropped off the radar, and I think that he had his moment. He had his fame, and I'm seeing the same thing happen with Jordan Peterson right now too. Yeah. They have their 15 months. Right. They're 18 months, and then they're gone. And Milo had even a longer stretch than that. He had about 2 years where he just skyrocketed, and then after the pedophilia comments on the podcast came out, he kind of just fizzled out into... Yeah,
and for those listeners of the show, our audience is obviously a lot of times older. They may not know who Milo is because they're not in. And Milo is openly gay, conservative, kind of alt-rightish guy.
Very flamboyant.
And we've done shows on the alt-right, so I don't want to... They're not neo-Nazis, folks. Yep. Alt-right is a giant spectrum of people who aren't your conservative rhino Republicans, right? That's the way I look at it. I consider myself a little on the alt-right side, frankly, and if somebody wants to yell at me about it, on you.
Yeah.
That's the way I am. So it's cool that you got to meet him, because I would have always liked to meet him.
Yeah.
I thought he was provocative, he was in your face, and
intelligent,
unapologetic about being a conservative. That's
Definitely.
simple. You know what I mean? And that's, I think, to the point, which, as we get back, is a good segue back to your movie.
Right.
Stop being so politically correct. Hurting people. You don't have a right in this country not to have your feelings hurt. Sorry, right? That's what it comes down to. So tell us a little bit more about the film. So
Sure.
we start out with San Bernardino.
Yeah, so that's the sort of that's the bookend for the film, because if you don't know the story, in 2015, Saeed Rizwan Farouk and his wife Tashfeen Malik had been preparing pipe bombs and stockpiling ammunition in San Bernardino, and they worked at the Inland Regional Center, which was a center for developmental disabilities, actually. So this is a place where people with developmental disabilities go for occupational therapy. And the neighbors of these two Islamic terrorists knew something was going on, and they felt like if they expressed their fears to the police or to the FBI, that they would be called racist and
don't give away the ending.
Racist or Islamophobes, and so they didn't say anything. And I remember hearing about this shortly after it happened back in 2015, and when it came out that there were neighbors that didn't say anything because they were afraid of being called racist or Islamophobic, that sort of put the seed in my head, and I realized, okay, it's deeper than we want to respect people. It's even deeper than religion. It's not even a question of. I do think that's a very important question of why is it so heavily weighted towards Islamic terrorism and not Judeo-Christian terrorism. But it's even deeper than that. Why were they afraid? Why couldn't they say something? And so the film starts there, but then it jumps into the connection between that and what we're seeing happen on the universities, and what we're seeing happen with Antifa, and what we're seeing happen with Kavanaugh. It's all linked. It's what's happening in Parkland. Like, the Parkland shooting is related to these things, and this isn't some Alex Jones conspiracy theory. This is all related to the same fundamental ideology, and that fundamental ideology is that of neo-Marxism, of postmodernism, of socialism and totalitarianism, and it all comes from the same substrate. So the film really jumps a lot deeper than just hey, you don't deserve to have your feelings protected. It's so much deeper than that.
Yeah.
So PC is a term that actually came from the Soviet Union.
Yeah,
under communism, right? And so basically, to knock it down a bit, or to simplify it, PC kills.
Basically.
Right. So these people weren't speaking because of quote unquote political correctness.
Yeah.
And that has become such a term in our culture now that we don't even remember what the roots are. It's kind of a humor item anymore. That's PC or this, that. And we don't realize how you're pointing out in your movie how deadly that whole mindset can be. Yeah. Right?
Because it didn't die. The idea of PC didn't die with the Soviet Union. In fact, it's being promulgated right now in the universities.
When I was in the university in Ann Arbor, I remember we used to joke about politically correct, and we knew, and this is in the 70s, and we knew that we were mockingly speaking of the political correctness that was in Russia. It was like, ha, 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 political correctness, comrade. And it's a real thing.
It is. Yeah, it's more than a real thing, and it's also, like I said, I think it's only the tip of the iceberg. I think it's only the symptom of the problem, and the problem is a series or a multifaceted ideology that you're seeing. I was just on University of Michigan's campus a week ago, and they were hanging a giant banner in the diag. In big bold letters, it says, "Capitalism has failed. Join the socialists." Dead serious. It wasn't satire. It's that I don't understand the disconnect. But this ideology, this multifaceted ideology, is pervasive, and it's separated by a generation that has no concept of where it came from.
Like the term PC.
Exactly, the term PC. So they don't. I don't think they recognize what you recognized, which is where it came from and why it's actually relevant and where it comes from.
Yeah, it's amazing because I had a Facebook argument this week with young friend.
Oh, yeah,
son, I remember that. Yeah, I think you ended up seeing it, and the young people of today have no concept. They think they're smarter than the founding fathers. They don't believe that capitalism works.
Yeah,
the same people at the University of